Good morning, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live, where we get together here on YouTube and on Twitter to discuss everything that's going on in the world of the Auburn family spectrum. Obviously, heavy on the sports side of things, especially these days, and heavy on the coaching search side of things right now. So that's going to be the topic mainly today. Usually we try to get on here and have several things within Auburn news to discuss, but I know that's probably not much of interest to anyone else other than what's actually going on with the coaching search. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Kyle. I'm the editor of the E2C Network, and we are a family of podcasts that cover Auburn family stuff, and we've got several podcasts out there that I hope that you've taken a look at and enjoyed. Several different contributors across that. Speaking of which, I said it yesterday, if you have not listened to the episode of No Huddle with AJ Richardson and Jared Davis, you need to. Obviously, they break down the initial announcement of the firing of Coach Gus Malzahn. And I think they do, again, as I said yesterday, they do a great job of presenting both sides of the argument. Jared tends to fall more on the side of that it was time to make a change. AJ doesn't. And they did a great job, I think, of respectfully balancing both of those equations and trying to come to some consensus about what's actually going on. Of course, they were speaking on it as it had happened, and there's much more information coming out and rumors and such and stuff like that. So check that out if you. Also, we'll be having another episode of Inside the Jungle with myself after the game tonight with Texas Southern. So you will want to make sure you are subscribed on Apple Podcast or any other thing out there that does podcasts. If it's not there on your podcast provider, let us know and we'll put it out there for you to make sure that you're able to get these podcasts. So look for that coming out tomorrow as well. So the title of my episode or live stream here today is Coach Malzahn, or not Coach Malzahn. We're kind of moved past that. The Auburn coaching search today, and what's actually going on. We've done 3 streams in a row now where we've kind of started we did an initial live reaction of the breaking down of the news of the firing, and then moved on to some other things. Justin Denton says, who are you thinking steal? I'll get to that in just a second. Bear with me. I know I'm kind of setting the table here a little bit and taking some time to do that. You know, people always say that know me and know my family that we love to talk, and sometimes we never get to the point, so that's probably what's going on here, so I apologize. We set the table when we first started talking about reacting to the actual news. Yesterday's live stream on YouTube especially. By the way, I always say this, we go on both streams here. The best option for you is on YouTube because better sound quality, it's easier to keep up track with your comments and stuff like that because they go away quickly right here. But I'll do my best to keep up with them as they come up on Twitter. But a lot of you have subscribed on YouTube lately, and that's been a huge, huge success, so thank you for doing that. Anyway, I keep sidetracking. Yesterday, we talked about was it the right choice? And let me go ahead and just, for those of you that may be watching this stream for the first time, I am heavily in the camp that this was an absolutely wrong choice. And I know that's already going to probably turn some of you off. That's okay. This is a divisive issue. We all have our different sides of the equation that we're on this. But yes, I think it was a terrible, terrible, terrible decision. What's going on, man? He says, preach, Kyle. I know you're in the same camp as me, buddy. But anyway, so that's probably like home team cheering right there. Today, what's going on? Now, we all have our sources, right? Everybody's got a source. Everybody's got their inside guy. I've got my inside guys and lads and girls and everything in between. But who actually really knows what's going on? I don't think anybody really does except the powers that be. And I'm not even so sure that they know what's going on, to be honest with you. But I will set up the narrative that I think that is happening right now. I believe the sources have sources. Yes, I agree with that as well. I will set up the narrative that I think has happened. So we have to start at the beginning. You fire Coach Gus Malzahn, who has a stable, to what degree we can debate, a stable program, who is a winning coach, the most successful against Alabama and Nick Saban, traditionally is a really good recruiter, this is obviously an exception, and it's I think you kind of have to give him the benefit of the doubt with this year and the craziness that's going on. So you fire a successful coach. Well, you obviously have to have a plan if you're going to do that, and not to mention that you do it in a pandemic year where every athletic department around the country is suffering, and every business around the country is suffering. So why would you make such a decision to pay out $21 million to Coach Gus Malzahn when he had 4 years left on his contract? You had to have a plan, right? Right? Or did you? I do think there was a plan. We have a long history of people amongst the Auburn family who, because of their resources, have a lot of say, unfortunately, more say than they should, with who is going to be our leaders, and we all know who those are. But they have a tendency to do the ebb and flow of what's actually going on here, and unfortunately, I think that's what's taking place. I think finally, the administration, not just the athletic administration, was put in a position where the money that they desperately needed now was not going to be coming in outside of from their sources, from their people that provide that, and forced. They still responsible for it. Their hand to make this decision. And I think, personally, the plan, and this is, look, everything I'm about to say can change on a dime here. This is just my interpretation of my sources and me trying to kind of create the narrative that I think is unfolding here. I think the plan was to hire Mario Cristobal. And that still may be the plan. However, Mario Cristobal, depending on if you believe him or not, seems like he wants to stay at Oregon. It's kind of bad look if you decided to go after a guy and then he decides to play you for some more money. Now, again, that could change in a dime here, and he decides to actually play Oregon and come to Auburn, and he's just trying to make sure he gets the right deal from Auburn. Sure. But I do think that was the plan. I think that was the plan, and I think that has backfired on the powers that be, and now they're scrambling, trying to either see if they can convince Cristobal to come to Auburn, or backup plan, promote Kevin Steele. Depending on who you look at, I think that is the consensus right now. It's either Mario Cristobal or Kevin Steele. I will be honest with you. I like neither choice, but I like Kevin Steele better. And I like neither choice because I think we made the wrong decision. I think Coach Gus Malzahn should have been the head coach still. But we can get into that stuff later about why that is. If you watch some of the other live streams, you understand my thinking and my thought process behind this is much deeper than just winning games. But Mario Cristobal and Kevin Steele, I think, are the two options right now. And I think now that they have a little bit of egg on their face and they're realizing that Kevin Steele is not going to be a favorable selection amongst the Auburn fan base by most people's standards, I think it's actually the better of the two when you compare Mario Cristobal and Kevin Steele, because I'm a big fan of stability. And when you've already wrecked your stability, how do you salvage it? Well, you keep as much as you can together that you currently have. That's just one angle that I take on it. So to answer the question on Twitter, and by the way, please feel free to bring questions, comments in on YouTube or this as we go forward. But yes, I do think that Kevin Steele is very much in play here. It says 100%. Justin says 100% agree. I like Steele more than Mario. Now here, let me be upfront and tell you that I'm not happy about this situation at all. And I think, and I know for a fact that many people just react to that statement emotionally, that I'm not happy about this situation, and think, well, you're just not going to support any Auburn coach other than Gus Malzahn. That's not true. That's absolutely not. I never said that. I will support whoever is the head coach. Doesn't mean I have to like it to start with. But if they win, doesn't Auburn win? Yeah. So why would I be mad about that? I can't say the same for some people that dislike Gus Malzahn and wanted to see Auburn fail to get rid of him. But there you go. Mac2WDE says, Steele is definitely a known commodity for DC, but has a terrible, I guess you meant, had terrible head coaching past. Kevin Steele brings absolutely nothing to the table as a head coach, 6'3". So at some point, folks, y'all have got to get past that. Because if he's the guy, he's the safe bet. You got to get past that. Like Reese Davis tweeted, can be careful what you ask for. I 100% agree. I think I even on our account shared that, or maybe it was my personal account shared that. It's sad when the rival fans, and if for those of you that don't know, he is a Alabama fan, are happy to see Gus Malzahn go. Yeah, and like Max says, I'll support any head coach at Auburn. Of course, that's what we do. We're Auburn family, and we support each other, even if we don't like each other. Let's see. Auburn fan on YouTube says Mario's a better recruiter, I think. Yeah, look, I'm not going to argue against Nice Cat. Oh, yes, thank you. That's so for those of you that don't know, that is Podcat back there. We're a podcast network, and she has become affectionately known as Podcat. So I know the YouTube people can't necessarily see her. You might see her pop up over this shoulder, but the people on Twitter can definitely see her deciding to put herself in all her glory right there. Mario is by his history is a better recruiter. Great, but can he beat Nick Saban? He hasn't had really an opportunity to, but has any Nick Saban acolyte beaten Nick Saban yet? Nope, not at all. And you want that? I sure don't. If he comes, I'll support him, but I sure don't. Couldn't be Gus. I'm missing the context of that. But couldn't beat Gus. Yes, there you go. That's what I was missing there. So yes, Mario's a great recruiter. So I'm not saying that Kevin Steele and Mario Cristobal don't have great upside one way or the other. I think Kevin Steele provides stability. I think Mario Cristobal provides great recruiting. Probably gives you a little bit of if there is a hype factor in this situation, he probably gives you a little bit of that. But my list, honestly, and look, when I say this, most of y'all are going to just roll your eyes and say you're not being serious. Well, my biggest argument is, we didn't want Gus because of mediocrity. I'll tell you why in just a second. Surely they didn't fire Gus with Steele even as the second option, but love Steele, but that makes no sense, Hank said on Twitter. As the story I've laid out for you, I believe the plan was to hire Cristobal. I think they were worried that Cristobal's playing them. Maybe he's not. Maybe he's coming to Auburn. Depends on who you ask. I've heard multiple stories both ways. But, yeah. So, depends on who you ask on that scenario. But I do think that was the plan, and now they're got a little bit of egg on their face, and they're trying to salvage something. Justin says this was such a quick fire. We go all in for Urban. I do not want Urban Meyer. Do you really want Urban Meyer to win a championship and then be gone in less than 5 years? And here we are doing this again. We have a problem in the fan base of valuing, and when I say this, please listen, please hear me. We have a problem in this fan base of valuing winning more than integrity. And it's tough to battle that because we're watching our rivals have the winning, but they're doing it with less integrity. And winning will never, ever be enough. I promise you, it will never satisfy you. But when you are able to do something with integrity, which means maybe you're a little less successful, it makes it that much sweeter. And isn't that the Auburn story? I mean, here, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. The Auburn story is the story of Shug Jordan and, come on, Kyle, Pat Sullivan. Most of those, you don't know the story. Pat Sullivan was highly recruited out of, I forget the high school, but out of the Birmingham area. Shug Jordan came to him knowing he was up against a wall, Bear Bryant's trying to get him to come. And they were having a day where Coach Jordan was spending some time with them, and they were going to go to this football game in the city of Birmingham. I think it was like a semi-pro game or something like that. And they didn't have a way to get there except for walking, and they just started walking to the stadium. As they're walking, they see this motorcade come by. And, of course, it's Bear Bryant, and everybody's screaming and hollering, it's Bear Bryant. And then Coach Jordan looks at Pat Sullivan and sees him longingly looking at that motorcade and seeing the look in his eyes and knowing what's processing there, says, son, I'll tell you one thing. You can either go into the limelight with him or you can take a walk with me. And Pat Sullivan chose to take a walk. The harder route, but the more satisfying route. And that's the story of Auburn. So there's my soapbox moment for us. And so that's why I say this, is that that's not what we're trying to do now. What it is apparent we're trying to do, that's not the story of Auburn. We're trying to be something that we're not. Hank says, I agree that it was a bad move to fire. By the way, I'm not going to matter until Little Nick is gone anyway. Exactly. I mean, I think, the next coach is going to struggle until Nick Saban is gone or can prove that he can be successful as Gus against him. That's the key right there. There's people that want to pretend that, we're not worried about Alabama. It's more about beating LSU and Texas A&M and Georgia every year. It's always about Alabama, and that's okay. First of all, they're the standard. They are. It's okay to say that. Right now, they're the standard. It sucks to say it. I'm saying it right now. They are the standard. They are consistently number one, year in and year out at some point. And shouldn't you want to beat that? But the people that try to emulate them, they aren't successful. Gus was. So when I think I started saying this earlier, and I've said this on previous live streams, my list, and when I say this, my number one list, my short list, as people ask for me, is one name. I mean, obviously it was Gus Malzahn, but Dabo Swinney. This was a stupid fire unless you were going to get Dabo Swinney. Or Nick Saban, but I don't want Nick Saban. This was a stupid hire unless you're going to get Dabo Swinney. And when you consider what is going on in the culture of Auburn and the expectations that were set by Coach Malzahn, anything less than Dabo Swinney is a mediocre hire. It's mediocre, and yet we're complaining about mediocrity with Coach Malzahn. In my opinion, you have to beat Alabama in order to get to Atlanta to play for the SEC title. Right now, that's the truth. LSU was the standard last year. Now they're not. But Alabama has the consistency that they are what you get through to get to SEC championship on the West side. And it's okay to say that. It's okay. That doesn't make you a little brother. It makes you a realist and realize what you're up against right now. So that the narrative that I've set here is that Mario Cristobal was the guy. There's some catch-ups in that. One of my sources has told me that since that did not take place the way they wanted it to, at least currently, a search committee will be formed, and they will try to find someone other than that. Other sources are telling me that now they're just trying to make peace with hiring Kevin Steele, which in a bad situation, I'm okay with. Hiring Kevin Steele, I hear you on his record, but in terms of keeping the program stable, I'm okay with. Sorry about that, folks on Twitter. I think you just got lost. I don't know if y'all can hear me or not. Let me know if y'all can hear me because it's there. We just lost the Twitter folks. Oh well. Anyway, well, you guys did stay on here longer anyway, and I had this on. Did I have this on? Yeah, I had it on Do Not Disturb, and it was still. It still did anyway. Anyway, that's frustrating. Okay, well, I usually stay on longer for you guys anyway. So you just get extra long this time. Hiring Kevin Steele. I can actually put these up here. Hiring Kevin Steele would be very dumb. We need someone who will change the program's trajectory, and he won't do that. I disagree with that. I really do. I really do. Neil White says, heard a rumor that Bryles will be the next OC here at Auburn. Well, I mean, if you hire if you hire Kevin Steele as your head coach, then you're going to need a really good offensive mind because Kevin Steele's a defensive guy, and it's kind of similar to Nick Saban. So, I mean, yeah, sure. Makes sense. I don't know necessarily that I want that, but, for those of you that don't want Hugh Freeze, why do you want Art Briles? and I'm not saying I don't want either two of them. Everybody's got that one thing that they don't like against the certain candidate, and that is the if it's Art Briles, it's the terrible decisions that he made and was part of at Baylor. If it's Hugh Freeze, it's the terrible decisions and mistakes that he made while at Ole Miss. If it's Kevin Steele, it's his record as a head coach. You're always going to find something to hate a candidate over. I have my reasons why I dislike some of all the candidates that are out there thus far, and I shouldn't say all. If my list, if I'm honest, it goes Dabo Swinney. Honestly, anything less than that, this is a failure. Next would be and I rank these in terms of like enthusiasm level too. So 1 is Dabo Swinney, 50A is Kevin Steele, 50B, and I used to say 51, but 50B is Hugh Freeze. And I say B on that one because I would prefer Hugh Freeze in terms of excitement level that it would bring. I do have concerns about the past, but I'm willing to put those behind if we hire him and trust that he's learned from those mistakes. But that's why I say a 50B. And then 99, Cristobal. That is not an exciting hire. It's not. I'm sorry. I will support him if it happens, and I'd be happy to meet him one day and congratulate him on getting it. And I hope I'm wrong. That is not an exciting hire. It's the same thing that every university thus far that has hired a Nick Saban acolyte. Is that Michael? I'm glad you made it over, buddy. I don't know what happened to the stream on Twitter. I know what happened. I had it on Do Not Disturb where I couldn't get any phone calls, and somehow a spam call came through and stopped the stream. It is the most frustrating thing ever. So glad you made it over here, buddy. By the way, for those of you that are watching here, if I don't do these on a scheduled basis, so if you want to stay up to date when I do this and get a notification, you need to be subscribed and have the notification bell marked as well, because it's right next to the subscribe button. That way you'll know when we go live. And these are just things that we do as news comes up or as I have time to do them, and I try to do them maybe once a day. So if you don't want to miss out, that's the best way to do it. Let's see here. Let me get to some of these questions. If we get Kevin Steele, we need to hire Muschamp as DC and get a good OC. I liked Muschamp back the second time as DC. I don't know that I want to rehash that history again. But, I mean, he's got a great history as a DC. But he'll be leaving again at some point soon. I know it doesn't seem like it after 2 failed stints as head coaches. But his goal is to be a head coach. He'll be gone again. I'm a stability guy. That's a bad move in my place. And I know that seemingly everybody will leave at some point. But, yeah. Oh, let's see. What I've heard, hopefully not true, is that Steele is the guy and Briles is the new OC. Briles just quit his high school job. Briles quit his high school job, but Texas Tech is available, who is his alma mater. So I think you will see Briles go to Texas Tech. I could be wrong, and you could be right. But that's what I think is happening there. I don't put a lot of stock in Briles. There's also this contingency of fans that want Luke Fickell and Tony Elliott and want trying to think of the other, Matt Campbell. That's why you paid $21 million to restart the program. That's a mediocre hire when we said that we weren't going to accept mediocrity. It's funny how our tunes change once we get things. And let me just say this too. If you watch social media and you just kind of read into what people are saying and how they're reacting, there's a lot of people that are realizing that were for this move are realizing this was a bad mistake. They'll never admit it, but it was a bad mistake. And we will pay for it very badly. Cristobal could compete with UGA and Bama for recruiting. That's one level, though. So you recruit. Gene Chizik recruited. Where did that get us? in NCAA trouble, a program that eventually imploded. Recruiting can't be your only pitch for Cristobal. That's why he's so low on my list. Like, I get it. I get recruiting seems low right now. That's the hot topic right now. You cannot make one topic your reason for hiring Cristobal. There's no other reason other than that. Cristobal, well, we said that one right here. Some crazies want Bill Clark. Look, Bill Clark's no more crazy than Matt Campbell or Luke Fickell. It's not. It really isn't. I just think that, to me, you don't fire a coach when your athletic department's already $31 million in the hole, and now probably $51 million in the hole. Well, $30 million, but $51 million in the hole after this. And look, I know everybody's saying, well, the athletic didn't pay that. They paid it. It may have come through a different channel, but they paid it. And so now you're going to be on top of that, however long. Let's just assume that they hire a coach to a 5-year contract, because that's probably the standard. You're looking at another $20 million. Not smart at all. Neil, I don't know if you heard me earlier. I said the Tony Elliott name. Again, it's a mediocre hire with a lot of risk. We've seen it play out before with Chad Morris as a head coach. You always think that these things. Auburn's at a point now where it needs to stop taking chances on those type of hires. I'll be honest with you. As much as I dislike the Urban Meyer pick, I'd rather Urban Meyer than an OC or a DC from somewhere else. If we're going to do anything other than a current head coach, it needs to be Kevin Steele, because it maintains stability. And that's kind of what the thing that frustrates is everybody's just drawing these names out of a hat and saying, okay, well, what about this angle and this? But they've only got one angle. Look, and I know I'm being pessimistic about that, and that's usually not my nature, but this was a bad decision, and there's two ways to correct this thing. Auburn admits they were wrong and somehow convinces Gus Malzahn to come back, or you hire Dabo Swinney. Otherwise, this doesn't work out well for Auburn. Mark it down. And I'm willing to be wrong, and if I am, I will admit it, and I will be happy about it, because that means Auburn succeeds and we all succeed. Is there any way Gus can come back just for 1 year and give us time to find a replacement? I know you're being slightly funny, Michael, but would you come back if you were Gus Malzahn? After putting up with the lack of support from fan base, boosters, would you come back? My hope is that Gus Malzahn goes somewhere and wins the national championship and has a parting shot at Auburn. I do. And there's people, some closer to me, that are unhappy that it seems like that I'm celebrating Auburn failing. I'm not celebrating that Auburn would fail, but what I want my university, my school to learn is that there are consequences to your mistakes, and sometimes you need to realize that you were a very bad situation. And a lot of those people are the ones that were heavy in the camp of Gus Malzahn and don't want to admit that they're wrong about this, and it's a tough pill to swallow for them. It really is. Michael says I'll support him wherever he goes. Of course. I mean, how can you not support Gus Malzahn? I mean, the dude's class act, walked out of here with his head held high, took his money, and said, see y'all later. And I'll be laughing at y'all the whole time. But let me, as I kind of talk negatively about the program right now, let me just say, I want to reiterate, so that when people say that you're just being a negative Nancy and you're not being optimistic like guys said, I am 100% favor of being wrong and saying and being glad that Auburn finds a head coach, maybe someone up and coming, has better success with Gus Malzahn, because if they win, I win. That's my team, that's my school, that's my family. And if they win, I win. And I will be ecstatic about that. And I will be happy to be wrong. I don't think people on the other side of this argument are willing to say that, because what it means is years of lamenting about Gus Malzahn that they wouldn't let go of and just be satisfied. That's a lot tougher to let go of and to admit you were wrong on. So that's kind of what that's kind of my take here right now. We got a bunch of people watching live, so thank y'all so much. If you have enjoyed the stream, hope you have. If you haven't, I'm sorry. Please do hit that like button. It does help us. We've been growing in subscribers lately, and that's been a huge help. We've been wanting to do more on YouTube. I've just wondered what to do, and I think these, impromptu live streams have been a great addition to our podcast network because I have tried over the years to step back from being on so many of the podcasts because I want other voices to be heard. By the way, Michael has been on as a guest on some of our podcasts before, so if you want to check out some of him, he was gracious enough to come and discuss race issues in the Auburn family with us several years back, and then he was part of the Gus Malzahn the uniform tribute episode, and we also talked about the unity patch that they have on all the uniforms today. So we really appreciate Michael being willing to lend his voice as a guest spot from time to time. So, but I say that because I want the podcast network to have more voices than just mine, and maybe this is just a great outlet here to do some more stuff with just me and let most of the other folks take center stage on the podcast network. So that's why I've started doing more of these here, and if you guys still enjoy them and want to show up for that, we'll continue to do some of these more impromptu ones here on a regularly unscheduled basis. But the best way to do it is be subscribed and have the notification bell barked, because then you will get a notification that says we are live and you can watch it. I think that's all I have to say today. If you have any last minute comments or questions that you want to get in rapid fire, we can maybe address them at the end here. Just final reminders. If you haven't checked out the podcast for No Huddle discussing the firing of Coach Gus Malzahn, you need to. It's a great one. And then we've also got the Inside the Jungle, the basketball podcast coming out tomorrow after the game tonight. So make sure you're subscribed for that. That is all I have for you today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And until we meet again, War Eagle.